How does a mother's perfect love become the weapon that kills her only son?
Listen closely to the silence, for that is where true magic whispers. Tonight, the stars tell a story of such a love so strong it bound the entire universe in an oath, and in doing so, sealed its doom. It begins, as all great tragedies do, in a time of perfect light.
My world was a symphony of gold and laughter. Asgard in those days was a realm of endless summer, and at its heart was my son, Baldur. To say he was beautiful is to say the sun is warm. It is a truth so fundamental it shapes the world. He was the god of light, of joy, of purity. Flowers bloomed in his footsteps. Beasts, wild and fierce, would lie down at his feet, tamed by his gentle presence. He was my son, my joy, my perfect creation. Odin, my husband, the Allfather, saw the 9 realms. He saw the threads of battle, the rise and fall of kings, the vast, cold emptiness between the stars. But I saw only the light in my son's eyes. In my love, I was content. I was blind. I believed this perfection, this moment, could last forever. Then the dreams began.
At first, they were mere whispers, shadows flitting at the edge of his sleep. He would wake with a gasp, the radiant light around him momentarily dimmed, a flicker in the eternal flame. He spoke to me of halls without warmth, of a table set for a guest who would never leave. He spoke of shadows with no source, of a cold that even the heart fires of Asgard could not warm. Night after night, the visions grew bolder, clearer. He described the grim face of hell, the ruler of the dead, preparing a place for a guest of great honor. My blood ran cold. The shadow of the end had fallen upon our perfect summer. The Norns, the ancient weavers of fate, who sit at the roots of Yggdrasil, had spun a new thread into the tapestry of the cosmos, a thread of darkness, dyed in sorrow, aimed directly at the brightest light in the 9 realms. And a prophecy, once spoken, is a seed planted in the soil of time. It cannot be unplanted. It can only grow. Odin knew. He would not admit it to me, but I saw it in his one eye. The terrible burden of knowledge. He mounted his 8-legged steed, Sleipnir, and rode down the winding path to the gates of hell itself. There, he used his darkest magic to awaken the spirit of a long-dead Cirrus. He demanded answers. He returned to Asgard with a face carved from ancient stone, his silence more terrifying than any scream. He told me what the Cirrus had prophesied. Our son was doomed to die, slain by the hand of his own brother. His death would be the first great sorrow, the first crack in the walls of Asgard, the first tremor of the coming Ragnarok. I felt the world shatter. A prophecy? A thread woven by crones in a cave? I was Frigg, queen of Asgard, goddess of love, of creation, of motherhood itself. I would not let my son's light be extinguished by a whispered word. If fate had written this ending, then I would wage war on fate.
I would take the tapestry of the cosmos into my own hands and reweave it with the unbreakable strength of my love. That day, I made a vow. I would not let my son die. I would face down destiny itself.
My quest began. I walked the paths of the 9 realms, my royal robes traded for a traveler's cloak, my crown for a simple hood. My voice, which commanded gods, now had to plead, to persuade, to demand. First, I journeyed to Muspelheim, the realm of eternal flame. I stood before the infernos that would one day consume the world and spoke to the heart of the fire. I made it swear an oath, "You will not harm Baldur." Then I traveled to the frozen mists of Niflheim and spoke to the ancient ice. I made it swear the oath. I spoke to water, to the rivers that flow between worlds, to the crushing depths of the ocean where the great serpent sleeps. I spoke to iron and all metals, from the dwarves' mightiest creations to the simplest nail, stone and earth and clay, trees, from the great ash Yggdrasil to the smallest sapling, diseases that plague gods and men, poisons brewed in darkness, every beast that walks, flies, or crawls. I traveled for an age, my love a shield against all weariness. I spoke to each and everything, extracting their solemn promise. I was weaving a spell of protection around my son, a net woven from the very fabric of creation. It was the greatest act of magic ever performed by a single will. The universe itself bent to a mother's love. She was creating a paradox, a single immortal point in a world of decay and death. But in any great spell, in any grand design, the most dangerous flaw is not a hidden strength, but an overlooked weakness, the smallest detail forgotten in a moment of absolute triumph. I returned to Asgard victorious. I had done it. I had stared into the abyss of prophecy and spat in its eye. My son was safe. To celebrate, the gods devised a game, a glorious, joyous sport to test Baldur's new invulnerability. They gathered in the sun-drenched fields of Gladsheim, and the celebration began. Thor threw his mighty hammer, Mjolnir, and it swerved at the last moment, refusing to strike. They threw stones at him, and the stones would turn to dust before they touched him. They shot arrows, and the arrows would veer away as if guided by an unseen hand. They swung their great swords, and the blades would shatter into 1,000 pieces upon his skin, leaving him unharmed. Laughter, true and deep, filled the halls of Asgard once more, and my laughter was the loudest of all. Seeing my son stand in the center of that joyous storm, radiant and unharmed, was the validation of my impossible quest. I had won.
In my joy, in my absolute certainty, I barely noticed a small, insignificant plant growing on an old oak tree just outside the hall, the mistletoe. I remembered passing it on my journey. I had seen it, green and harmless, and dismissed it with a passing thought. It is too young, I had told myself, too small, too gentle to ever demand an oath from. A passing thought. An insignificant detail in my grand, world-binding design. I saw Loki then, standing at the edge of the crowd, a serpent lurking in a field of flowers. He was not participating. He never did. He only watched, a cruel, knowing smile playing on his lips. I watched him approach Hober, Baldur's own twin brother, the god of darkness, born blind. Hoder stood apart, unable to join the game, his face a mask of sadness at his exclusion. I watched as Loki, the master of whispers, leaned in and spoke to him. His words were poison wrapped in honey. He asked why Hoder did not honor his brother. He offered to help. He placed something small and light in Hoder's hand, a dart, seemingly carved from a simple branch. He guided Hoder's arm, aiming it towards the sound of the laughter, towards the sound of my son.
I felt a tremor of unease, a cold whisper against my skin. But what could it be? A joke? Another harmless prank from the god of mischief? Every single thing in the 9 realms had sworn an oath. Every single thing. Except one. The dart flew. It was small, almost silent. It did not roar like a thrown axe or sing like a fired arrow. It flew like a forgotten thought, a whisper on the wind.
And in that silence, you see it, the impossible. The dart does not shatter. It does not veer away. It strikes. And for a heartbeat that stretches into an eternity, nothing happens. The laughter dies on your lips. The world holds its breath. You watch as your son, your light, your perfect creation, looks down at the small green branch embedded in his chest. You see the confusion in his eyes, and then you see the light begin to fade.
He fell without a sound. The sun vanished from the sky. The laughter of the gods turned to ash in the air. A cold that had nothing to do with winter descended upon Asgard and silenced every heart. My scream was the only sound in a suddenly dead world, a scream that tore the heavens apart. I ran to him. I held his cooling body in my arms. His light was gone. The warmth had left him. The prophecy, that whispered word I had defied with all my strength, had come true. It had not been defeated by a grand weapon, not by fire or iron or the fang of a great beast. My son, the god of joy, had been killed by a joke, by a child's toy, by the one thing in all of creation I had deemed too insignificant to matter. My love, my great world-binding love, had left a single fatal door unlocked, and the darkness had found it.
The day the gods wept, they did not weep for a warrior fallen in battle. They wept for the death of joy itself. Frigg, the mother who had bound the universe in an oath, was now bound by a grief that would never end. Her greatest act of love had become the architect of her deepest sorrow, a tragic reminder that in the grand tapestry of fate, there is no such thing as an insignificant thread. The first echo of Ragnarok had been heard, not in the clash of swords, but in the sound of a mother's broken heart.
The stars fall silent once more. May their echo guide your path.
If your spirit now yearns for the fire of battle to ward off the cold of this tale, the lore keeper has a story of a final war waiting for you. Or, if this tale of cosmic sorrow has moved you, perhaps you are ready to witness the tragedy of another goddess wronged by fate.
Choose your path, traveler, and continue listening to the echoes